Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back and welcome. We have Emma Quayle with us. Emma's a founding member of the Nonviolent Global Liberation community. Hi, Emma.
Yeah. Hello. Nice to see
Yeah,
you.
nice to see you. Uh, Tell the people who don't know, what is Nonviolent Global Liberation community?
Yeah. Um, so the Nonviolent Global Liberation Community, we call it NGL for short. And the purpose of NGL, and it's also why why I gave this session with you this name is integrating nonviolence into the fabric of human life.
Mm,
That's the name of the podcast, and then it's so integrating nonviolence into the fabric of human life through ongoing experiments with truth, um, anchored in or focused on, I don't remember, or yeah, individual and collective liberation.
mhm.
So yeah, it's very much it's rooted in like a bunch of different lineages, but a very primary one is nonviolent communication, and very much from um, Gandhi's lineage of nonviolence, which is like very much focused on experimentation as
Mm,
a orientation. And NGL is um, yeah, it's focused on experimentation with how to integrate nonviolence into systems, like ways of actually being together, functioning together, um, like from the micro of our how we actually live together to the macro, like how we could actually um, create different global systems. And so we're experimenting with everything from like daily living with community living experiments to creating wanting to create a like global network of communities that have interconnected systems that are like functioning
yep.
together from needs based systems, all the way up to like more global systems. And for instance, we function completely on the gift economy,
Mm.
and we have done since the beginning, which is 2017. Don't know if I said that already. Um, and yeah, that means that we don't ask for we don't charge for anything. Um, we we yeah, it's kind of founded on the basis of um, resources moving towards where there are needs. So like we it's kind of it's based on the assumption and our experience now that needs have power.
Mm.
um like babies, they can cry and smile and stuff, and resources come to them. It's expressing their needs, and the resources move. So it's not like everything we do is free. it's it's also it's on gift economy. So um gift is completely based in needs. Um, and so we let our needs be known to the community that supports us, and then we invite resources to come towards us to sustain us to do our work. But it's separated from events. So if we
It's not
run
an
an event,
exchange.
it's not exchange. Yeah. So yeah, we're experimenting across broad, many different areas of life. Um, yeah, that's kind of a overview, maybe.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
how did you how did you get involved? What was your
Oh,
experience that brought you to this project?
yeah. So I was I was like before I got involved with this, and well, in like 20, I don't know, when I was studying music at
Oh,
university. Yeah. And um I was very interested in listening primarily. I started kind of studying acoustics and like psychoacoustics, which is like how sound affects us psychologically and
oh yeah.
physiologically. And um but yeah, I was primarily interested in listening, and I had this hypothesis that if we were to learn to listen to ourselves really deeply, then we would organically build environments that actually work for humans and other beings. So this was before I discovered any nonviolent communication or NGL or anything. And then from there I just I thought like, wow, if we want to do that, then it makes sense to work with children, because they're like the designers and people who are going to be making decisions into the future.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to start there. And then so I started designing listening workshops for kids. And as I was doing that, I realized that I wasn't actually able to do it myself. Like, I wasn't really able to listen to myself deeply. So how am I going to teach someone else something that I don't actually know what it is?
Yes.
And that's when I went to a talk someone was doing, and he shared about like an argument that he broke up on a train, and he shared about this tool set that he had, or skills that he had used to do that. And I was like, oh, that's what I need. That's the thing that I've been looking for. Just, such an
Yeah.
intuitive like pull. And so I went up and asked, like, what is that thing you were talking about? And he's like, oh, it's nonviolent communication. And then I was like, oh, that's what I need to do. So then I went to a workshop, and then I was like completely in MVC world from that. I'm quite like, I don't know, I'm very much following like a path in myself. It's been very clear since I was small. So then I started doing MVC stuff and creating community in Scotland where I was living then. I very clearly wanted to like bring people together and create community like intensely. So, but then within MVC, I realized that it like often how MVC is taught is much more like interpersonal stuff. It's not necessarily like how it's traditionally taught. It's not looking at the systemic stuff or like design based stuff, which is where I started out with this hypothesis I had about learning to listen to ourselves so we can design environments that work for people. So then I just started kind of exploring outside of Scotland, and then I found Mickey Kashtan. I went to a convergent facilitation training that she was doing in Oxford in the UK, and it was just very clear from hearing her talk. It was like what she was saying and the energy that was coming from it was matching for me in a way that I could like trust. And I felt an energy of like also pulling towards community, putting people together. So I just really connected with her then. And that was 2016. And then 2017, she was already having the ideas like before we met to create NGL. And I was just like, that's exactly what I want to do. Like, it's completely in the area of that hypothesis that I had. It's like NVC situated within systems building, essentially, which is what NGL is doing, experimenting with. So that's how I got involved, and I was there at the very start of it. So when nothing was in place, we just had a list of principles and a kind of vision, and more like organizational structure, vision, values, purpose, and some principles and ideas that she had been working on for her lifetime up until then. So really building from scratch.
Yeah. And what have you built? Like what yeah, what are the what are the sort of entities and functions that are real now, and what is it like for you living inside of that?
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier when I was describing NGL, we have a global gift economy, so that supports the livelihood of I think of about 40 people. So it's not a small amount of money that we're dealing with. And there's no bosses within NGL. There's no like management or I don't know, all those kind of gnarly things that are unpleasant about working in organizations often. So everything is based on capacity and willingness. So we had this principle from the start that think we've reformed it now, but like it was that only that gets done for which there is capacity and willingness. So it's really, we really wanted to move forward and build something that was not replicating what we understand as patriarchal ways of functioning. So like not with force or incentive. Um, um, yeah, but really, really wanting to support us to contact that like kind of inherent joy of giving, which I know many of us lose touch with, losing living in the world as it is, but it's there, you know, it's possible to connect with that, and it's possible to live from that place. Um, um, yeah, so what does it look like? Yeah, I'm trying to
Yeah,
put
I was
it
about to say,
a bit more.
what's an example? Because I've been to some of the
Yeah,
workshops about this, and I have an
yeah,
MBC background and an economics background, so
yeah.
it all has meaning to me. But can you talk about a time when, well, in every gift, right? There's a need, there's willingness, and there's capacity. So what's an example of a gift and where there is need, willingness, capacity, and maybe a time there's a request where there's willingness but not
Mm-hmm,
capacity, or capacity but not willingness, or there's willingness and capacity but not need, like, so
mm-hmm,
just so that people can understand what the three variables are,
mm-hmm.
how they fit together.
Um, so I can give an example of something we're doing here right now in our house, because there's 7 of us here right now, and it's a 3-bedroom, very small apartment. And different people have different connections with each other, levels of intimacy, different preferences for who they'd want to share a room with or not, or have a room by themselves. Which, you know, in a in a 3-bedroom house with a 7 people, one person wanting a room to themselves, um, you know, when there's like when people are stretching and no one's really having their preference,
Mm-hmm.
there can usually be like judgments that go towards that person, or like, you know, separation, conflicts and stuff can very easily arise in those kinds of situations. Um, that we're really using this as an opportunity for like exercising our creativity, because one of the principles that we have is that, or one of the assumptions that we have is that our big brains, human brains, are actually designed for like creative and complex problem solving together in groups, and that we're socialized out of being able to do that in various ways that I'm going to right now. Um, so yeah, so because there's different people are stretching in different ways, we actually check at the moment, or we have done the last days, um, at dinner, if anyone wants to advocate to change the sleeping arrangements. Um, so then we're really, um, you know, seeing if anyone has reached a kind of stretch point, um, where going beyond that, like staying in the place that they're sleeping right now, which may be because, you know, the mattress doesn't work, or there's snoring, or they're not with other people where there's more intimacy that they can kind of relax in, um, or get nourished from. They can say that like it's not, yeah, it's not actually working for me right now. I want to change the sleeping situation. So that's like, um, you know, it's like we're tracking what the capacity limits are. It's like, where is the limit of where you can actually stretch, and not go into like resentment or reaction or whatever the fallout of it may be if you keep stretching. Um, what is the stretch there? What is the need? So then I could say, like, you know, what I'm really wanting is to be with X person, this person, and just have our own space for like, you know, 1 or 2 nights or something, so we can connect in the morning and talk. Because, you know, so then, um, yeah, and then we actually see what's possible. Like, would it be, is there willingness in other people to stretch in some other way? Because, um, you know, when there's this principle within convergent facilitation, which is a collaborative decision-making process that Mickey came up with and that we use, which is that not, like the range, what is it exactly? Something like the range of our willingness is wider than the range of our preference. So like we often use the example of pizza. Like your such immense preference may be to have like ham and pineapple or something. I don't know, pizza. Like you really love that, but you're willing to eat ham and pineapple and mushrooms or other vegetables, other than pineapple or something. So the range of your willingness is much wider than the range of your preference. So when we're seeing what's possible with each other, we're seeing what's possible within the range of our willingness. So yeah, how far are you willing to stretch right now into that range? And then that just basically like really opens up the floor of what's possible. We can really get creative at that level.
Yeah.
It's less possible to be creative in the range of preferences, because each person is like here, 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 here. It's tighter. But also having our preference can give us energy. So it may be that if you've stretched for, to a certain extent, you may want to just have your preference so that you can recharge.
Or
so that's a complex example maybe, but
no, I think
clear enough.
In some ways it's a very straightforward example because everybody has tried to share something with a group. And what I'm also hearing is the last thing that you said about preferences can still come in. There's if you're trying to reconcile a small capacity, high need situation, you want to be looking at the zone of willingness, not the zone of preference. And there might be some totally secondary thing where you're like, yeah, you can have your preference. I don't care what color towel at all.
Well, maybe I don't care what color towel, and also like totally, because if we're in a group, if you like essentially what we want to be able to do is to keep moving forwards together somewhere without like conflict erupting, right? And we can kind of engineer that to stay in that place by tracking where people are in their stretch in terms of like willingness, and what could increase their energy, their capacity to stretch through having preferences. So it's not only like I don't care, it's like what do we actually need as a group to be able to keep moving forwards together. And if that means that one person needs to have their own room all the time because they literally don't have any stretch room outside of their preference, then like here we've chosen to do that because we've been able to find enough creative solutions around it that it's fine. So it's also about really trusting what people say about their capacity at face value. Like if you say it's really important for me to have my own room because I just can't sleep, if other people are in there with me, it's like, okay, that's an element that we're working with. It's not like, oh come on Alice, like you always have your own room, you're socially it's so annoying.
Right. And it's also different from a situation where people are advocating for their preferences and you don't actually find out what their needs are or what their capacity is.
Yeah.
And you've created some frameworks inside of NGL, vision mobilization, experiments with truth are the two that I know about. Share about the models and maybe how they fit in with NGL and how they're useful for people.
So the vision mobilization framework, when I started, when NGL started, and we just had these documents that we were working with, like the vision, purpose, etc. And I was living in a different community then, and I started mapping, like writing out what I saw the current vision and stuff of my community then. So I was already starting to play with this like organizational literacy kind of
Mm,
stuff, which is probably more familiar to people that are in organizations. So like, yeah, having a vision, purpose, values, theory of change, and the systems that hold you, like how you make decisions together, how information flows, how your resources flow, how you give and receive feedback, and how you deal with conflict. They're all pretty like standard, yeah, things that support an organization to
yeah.
live. Um, and so, yeah, so I was playing with this, and um, yeah, I was just like really into it. And then at some point, one of um, someone else in the community, Erin Sullivan, she, I was looking for like what is mine to do, I guess, like
Mm-hmm.
how to focus my energy. And she had this vision of me applying NGL systems to individuals.
Mm.
I didn't know what that meant then
Yep,
at
yep,
all,
yep.
but I had these two people that had asked Mickey, and she had suggested me working with them. But I was like, I don't know how to work with people, what to do. But then we had this, okay, so applying NGL systems to individuals. Um, and I just emailed them as like, do you want to like, do this? I can experiment with this. I don't really know what it is yet, but um, and um, yeah, so then I just started experimenting with it. And initially, the vision mobilization framework wasn't called that; it was called purpose work.
Mm.
So I was seeing like um, values and systems and all of that as kind of tumbling from purpose. Like if you have a mobile and you can like pick it up from different places, the same, yeah, the different things that are connected will kind of line up in different ways.
Yep.
So yeah, I was doing that and was experimenting, and this was during the lockdown as well.
Mhm.
So I would work with someone, then I'd come down, and I was living with Mickey and near Varen, who is another uh, founding person of NGL. We were living in Scotland then, um, and yeah, I would come down and we'd kind of hash it out together what the learnings were, and yeah, over time it just I re well I don't know where the realization came from now. We realized that it was actually stemming from vision and not from purpose specifically.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and so yeah, I developed this framework which is using all of these familiar kind of organizational literacy aspects, um, but it's from a very different angle. So it's not, for example, with theory of change, it can um, orient from the perspective of like how are we gonna uh, I don't know, plan out our steps into the future to get to a certain place where we want to go to, and um, yeah, it can be more like authority based, force based movement in organizations because we want to get to somewhere by a certain date, so we kind of like force ourselves to do the things. um, but the vision mobilization framework is it's like an alive structure, so it's based on um, the um, yeah, more the idea that we source like we source from life in certain ways. Like there are things that you do in your daily living that give you energy, and also are aligned with your vision. So these would be things that you place in your theory of what we're calling theory of change, and that the idea is that when you do those things, it gives you energy to do your purpose work.
Mm. Interesting.
Um, yeah, in a kind of organic way that doesn't require force because it's from deep internal motivation, like how life is moving in you and what you want to contribute to life. Um, so yeah, and there are some other key principles within it. Um, like there's a very clear orientation towards purpose. Um, so that's like I'll start somewhere else a minute. so the vision mobilization is like mobilizing us from where we are, like what the current reality is, towards vision, and seeing what it is that we can do to actually bridge the gap between where we are now and where we want to be. And so this happens in two ways. One is via purpose, which is like an external route of like what is mine to do to bridge that gap. And the other one is internal, which is the values, which takes qualities of the vision and kind of like pulls them down into the now, where we are now, to apply in the form of like principles and practices in our life to help transform the internalized, the way that we've internalized patriarchal practice structures. And yeah, a really important aspect of it is anchoring our vision in concrete agreements. So when we do the courses, I often use the image of a kite, and like if you have a kite and you just, the wind comes, like, life energy kind of wind comes. If it's not tied down in some way, then it will just fly off, and you'll see your dreams like go. But if it's actually anchored in concrete agreements of things that you can actually do, then it's more likely that your actions will move you towards vision. So that's essentially what I'm trying to do.
I have a clarifying question. I got confused about agreements. If it's, I understand agreements obviously in an organization. If a person is using this to, identify their purpose, ground themselves in their values, what kind of agreements come in? Where do agreements come
in? Well, it can be like if you're creating agreements in relation to some kind of patterning, like the ways in which we've internalized the systems and have been traumatized by them as well. It's like we develop patterns to compensate and try and attend to those needs, and sometimes those patterns are they have impacts on people. And so you can use the values to create practices. They're like vision aligned practices, which could be, like, an example, for instance, I had for a long time on the wall by my bed a post-it note. It can be this concrete, that said, like, Emma, do tapping. I do like EFT, emotional freedom technique tapping, for at least 5 minutes, even if you feel okay, even if you think you feel okay. And this was a way of me practicing bringing tenderness to the kind of more constricted places inside, as a way of generating more like internal freedom, essentially, to be able to live more in alignment with my vision. That's one example. It's a very concrete thing. And it can also be like, the example I gave earlier with the beds. We have an agreement that at dinner time we check in. Does anyone want to advocate for changing the sleeping situation? That's an agreement that anchors our commitment to needs-based, capacity-based, willingness-based kind of resource flow in our space.
This is very interesting, because my previous business was an organization development business. So I was doing a lot of, visioning, anchoring in values, what actions, what agreements. And I do bring a lot of that to the work I do now, which is mostly with individuals. And and it works, or most of it works. I've been doing a lot of asset mapping, which is, capacity and need stuff, sort of creativity. And what was I going to ask? I think we're almost near the end.
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
Okay. Why don't we I know I wanted to talk about, I know we were going to talk about experiments with truth, and I think we're going to have to bracket that. And why don't you tell everybody how they can find out more about NGL, what like ways there are to get involved or learn from the project,
Yeah,
where to find.
yeah. Um, I was just wondering if I can fit in one of the other questions, like in
Okay,
my
yeah.
response to that, but I
You
don't
know,
know.
really, really, really quick, like what
Yeah,
is experimentation and why does it matter? Because you actually kind of already shared that NGL is an experiment,
yeah,
but it's kind of a
yeah.
prototype.
It's a prototype, and yeah, I guess I want to say why it matters to do experimentation is that
Yeah.
um, there's a lot out there that we can learn that's like telling us it will take us in this direction or give us this new life or whatever it is, but um, actually having a focus on or an orientation to experimenting can mean that we don't actually take on new structures as kind of like doctrine. It's it's like in how we've been trained, our minds can be quite like rigid, and um, we're essentially wanting to like break open any rigidity that's caused by how we've been traumatized and trained and all by being in this society, and to free up our capacity for actually creative thinking together as human beings. um and yeah, so it's a way of like really refinding our agency and therefore our power as a human species. And this is part of the power of the, we're not talking about it a lot, but the experiments with truth template, which really creates pathway, supports us to find a pathway that's within capacity for experimenting with how we might want to apply, I mean, non-violence, but it could be many other different modalities, how we want to apply that and see what the outcomes are of it for ourselves in a way that's like time boxed and within capacity to evaluate and understand and then take next steps with. So, and at some point, we're planning to do a course on experiments with truth. First within NGL, grow capacity there, but at some point we will, share that more widely. Um, and we have our website, which, should I say what it is?
Yeah.
It's www.nglcommunity.org. People can come there, and anyone can join as what we currently call a friend. And the community is entirely transparent. It's very important for us in like moving away from like control-based organizational functioning to have everything that we do transparent, including like financial requests that people make or just everything, team meetings, coaching calls. It's all available if people are interested to come and see what we're doing, or even get involved, first with attending things or taking up tasks or eventually like joining teams and like really getting embedded. It's all open if someone's committed to the purpose that we're committed to, then we're
And
here.
excuse me, I don't know if you're
Cat.
hearing a cat scratching your
Yeah.
rug. Um, and and also I know there are resources. Some
Yeah.
some for pay or suggested pay, and some just available. Just kind of share what kind of
Yeah.
resources are available.
So on there's a website called thefearlessheart.org, and that's where we currently store our packets, which is like I don't know how to describe them, like learning packets, design information, kind of, the articulation of what we call the NGL framework is there, and it's without a pay wall, so you're not like asked to give money, but like I was saying before, because we're operating within the gift economy, we have needs to be able to be sustained to do what we do. So we ask that people engage with that process of whether or not to give, even if they give zero, which many people do. But we're really wanting people to engage with the process of engaging at that needs level. It's really important to us. Yeah, but yeah, you can go there and get the packets. There are courses that we've done. Many are on the NVC Academy. And we're working on making more of our courses available in the same way that the packets are available on a gift basis without a, yeah, without the table.
Well,
Yeah.
it's really, the work you're doing is really inspiring. It's really great to be spending time with you. And,
Yeah.
you know, this work really gives me hope because I've, for a long time, had conceptual ideas, ideals, and then practical things that I've tried and always wondered if it would be possible to bridge the gap. And I
Mm.
feel like that's
Yeah,
what you
totally.
as a community are really taking
Yeah.
on.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay. Well, thank you very much. And I'll just stop
Thank you.
recording.
Okay.